All right, we are near the end of year of our Lord 2024, and I am taking a look back, reflecting, and thinking about what we learned. And really specifically what I learned. I've been in this real estate game for a little while now, but I had a different year than I have had. I did more transactions, more volume, blah, 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 all that stuff. Nobody cares. But point being, I got exposed to a different set of requirements, a different workload, a different level, if you will. Combine that with the fact that 2024 as a year in Denver real estate was unique. I think I could say that about just about every year since I've been in real estate, but nonetheless, 2024 was unique in a few ways. The market slowed down considerably, even from 2023, which was a slowdown from 2022. And that creates a brand new set of challenges and opportunities. And so what I want to go through on this video is the 5 biggest lessons that I've learned about Denver real estate in 2024. And if you don't know, Sam Newman, I'm a Denver real estate agent. It's my goal to be your go-to guy for buying, selling, investing, anything in Denver real estate. Would love, love, love if this video or anything on this channel is helpful, you would reach out if there's anything the team and I can help you with. Okay, so biggest lessons from 2024. Number 1, buyers are talking themselves out of deals. So I talked a little bit about earlier how it's a much slower market than we've had. More inventory than any time right now when I'm recording this December of 2024 in the last 11 years. Much more buyer opportunity in 2024, especially the second half, especially kind of August through the end of the year. We've seen much more buyer opportunity, much more opportunity for price reductions from sellers, for seller concessions, for all these other things that buyers didn't have access to a few years ago, which is great, right? That means finally the bidding wars are over. They've been over for a while. But when we were in the midst of 2020, 2021, a lot of us were saying, my God, when will this stop? When can we stop going 50 grand, 100 grand over asking price just to get the house under contract? When can we stop limiting inspection to health and safety? When can we stop doing appraisal gaps? My God, if I never saw an appraisal gap again, I'd be a happy man. I'm sorry, that got a little industry jargony, but point being, buyers were just having to sell the farm to get under contract because interest rates were so low and homes were in such short supply. That's just what they had to do. During that time, many of us were yearning for a time like this right now, where buyers would have options. We could go slower. We wouldn't have to see the house, call the agent, write the offer in the car. That's what we have now. Buyers have options, which is a good thing, and in some ways, not such a good thing. So it's a more friendly market for buyers because of all those things they're not having to do and because of the options they have. But it's still not easy for buyers out there because of interest rates. Interest rates hovered around 7%, 6.5 to 7 for sure. Still right now here at the end of 2024, that makes affordability a big challenge when prices haven't really come down too much from the highs of 2022. So I'm not saying it's easy and buyers are being stupid by not just taking these amazing deals that are out there left and right. You trade one challenge for another, really. But we've reached a point and there's this weird thing that happens where when buyers are allowed to be picky, they are picky. And there's nothing wrong with that. When I was a home buyer most recently, I was picky too. But I've seen some buyers getting too picky and stepping over proverbial dollars to pick up proverbial dimes. So because they are in the driver's seat more than they have been in a long time, not always, but some of the time I've seen buyers, even when they get what they want, try to get more and more and pass up what would be an otherwise very good deal. I've seen it in a bunch of ways, and there's one time that happened recently this year in particular where I had a buyer who wanted to negotiate. That was his thing. I want to negotiate and see what I can get as far as the best deal on a number of different properties. I'll make a bunch of different offers and I'll see what sticks, if anything. Okay, fine. Not always a winning strategy, but if a buyer's dead set on it, we can come up with a strategy built around that. And we did. And a lot of people said, no, go kick rocks, which happens when you submit a very low offer from time to time. But we got traction on 1 or 2 properties. And in one case, we got a significant discount on a great property. And the only reason we're getting that is because the market is so much slower. If this were next spring, for example, this property would probably be selling and we wouldn't have the opportunity to get this discount. But the seller was ready to sell. Even though it was a really good deal, it wasn't an amazing, out of this world, never seen before deal. And so the buyer passed on it. It's a situation where, okay, we offer something, buyer saying, well, this is what I want, even if that's way under what you're asking. Then when the seller says, Okay, we'll give you what you want. Buyer says, maybe I don't want it so much anymore. Every buyer and seller gets to decide what deal is acceptable to them. But I've seen more and more often buyers talking themselves out of deals that I think they'll regret down the line. So the lesson here is get a good deal, and that's going to mean something different for each property, but don't worry about getting an amazing out of this world deal. If that happens, great. But the good deals are going to become great deals 10 years from now. Lesson number 2, renting for a while might be the right move. Not necessarily, and I know as a real estate agent, I'm always supposed to say it's an amazing time to buy, never rent, you're throwing your money out the window, down the drain, whatever it is. And there's some truth to that because buying a primary residence and owning the home you live in is the way that normal Americans have built wealth for better part of a century. The main way, I should say. There's other ways too, but one of the main ways. Real estate's made more millionaires than any other investment by far. But remember that affordability thing I talked about before? Because prices have stayed relatively high and because interest rates also are relatively high. That makes the monthly payment a challenge. So if you want to buy right now and you have the means, I'm not talking you out of it. I think it's a great buyer opportunity on the whole. But there are a lot of great opportunities in rentals as well. And a lot of the time you can get into a rental for a comparable property, you're going to be paying a lower monthly payment. Now, you're not building the wealth. You are, in metaphor, throwing your money out the window, but it's a means to an end. So if it's better to have that lower monthly payment, save more for a down payment so that when you buy a home, your mortgage payment isn't as high, that's not necessarily a bad move. Point being, it's situational and there's a lot of sensible situations to rent for a while. Lesson number 3, the real estate investor, in quotes, boom is over. Doesn't mean real estate investors have gone away, but there was a considerable wave of real estate investors that has largely washed out. Why? Because it's harder. So what I'm talking about here is folks who aren't just focused on buying a primary residence, but are focused on buying a rental property or rental properties, whether that's a long-term rental, short-term rental, single families, multifamilies, whatever. When I talked about back there about real estate making millionaires, you can make lots of money. You can find financial freedom by doing real estate investing at a large scale over time. And many people have. What we've seen is the biggest run up in real estate values, home values over the last 10 to 12 years, certainly of my lifetime and of many of our lifetimes too. So what did that mean? Well, if you bought a home, whether it's a townhouse, a triplex, or a normal house, if it just keeps going up in value every year, that makes for a really good investment. And that makes real estate investing look pretty darn easy. I buy something, it goes up by $25,000 to $100,000 per year, every year, and just keeps going up, up, up. Rents go up right along with it. I can rent it out. I can cash flow easily. I can do a cash out refinance, take that money, buy another rental investment property. There's a lot of options when the market keeps going up. When the market levels off mid 2022 to now, it gets tougher. Cash flow, the illustrious cash flow, isn't as easy. Right now, if you're trying to cash flow a property, it's tough unless you're putting a healthy chunk down. And by the way, this is still something you should do, and you should do it right now if you have the interest and the means. Those are the two big things. Because in any downturn, and I don't know if this is a downturn or not, but it's certainly a more stagnant market than it has been in a long time, there are opportunities. There will be many multimillionaires made from people buying investment properties right now. But when the getting was really, really good, there was this wave of people who latched onto it understandably, but it was a very popular, hot thing to do. Airbnb rentals, multifamily rentals. There was no shortage of online courses dedicated to this, of gurus showing you how to do this as long as you'll give them a little bit of your money to teach you. But since it's been harder, many of those gurus have gotten much quieter. And I have nothing against gurus, but all I'm saying is this big boom of real estate investors is over, and many people have gone to look to do something else that isn't so hard. Because even in a good market, I know I said it was easy. It depends what you're doing. If you're flipping a house, that's hard. I've never met anyone who's flipped 1, 2, 100 homes that didn't learn a lot in their first flip, that didn't probably lose money somewhere along the line. But the people who are real estate investing right now are committed. They think long-term. They're probably a bit more conservative, and I think they're set up for long-term success. All right, lesson number 4, condos right now are a great and terrible investment. I don't know sometimes what to make of the Denver condo market. It has been lagging behind the single family home market for a long time. COVID did a number on Denver condos because people wanted more space and they wanted to move out of city centers. And so that's where the majority of the condos are. They're smaller spaces in a centralized area. So the condo market was much, much slower. Now, even as the recovery from all the COVID policies has happened, condos haven't recovered as much. Big reason is because of HOA expenses now. In many cases, HOA fees have doubled just from insurance being so much more expensive and taxes going up. So if you own a 1-bedroom condo downtown and your HOA fees were $300 a month and now they're $600 a month, that hurts. And also makes it harder to sell the condo. So the market's much, much slower. And that means there's a ton of inventory out there just sitting on the market. So supply and demand, ton of supply, and demand is lower. If you're a buyer, that means tremendous opportunity in theory. You can get a condo at a deep discount right now. You can get deals. They're just falling out of the sky in the condo market right now. The question becomes, when does that recovery happen so you're able to benefit from the investment you made? You're able to benefit from buying low. When does that recovery happen? I have no idea. Does it happen? Is it something where condos just lag for the rest of our lifetimes? It seems unlikely to me, but is condo living, something that was a really big thing in the 90s and early 2000s and isn't so big anymore? Again, it seems unlikely, but with the condo market being so slow for so long, one does wonder how long it's going to take for these prices to come back. So many people, very, very smart people I know, are encouraging essentially no one to buy a condo in the Denver metro. I've heard people say that. Data-based real estate professionals say that recently, where just don't buy condos right now. It's too expensive. The HOAs are erratic. A lot of these buildings are older. They're going to bring up special assessments and they're building more supply. That's one area where supply is natively going up in the Denver market because new condos, especially around the downtown area, are being built. I look at it a little differently. I don't think I'm saying run and buy a bunch of condos because they are on sale right now, but I also don't think it's something that's going to be a bad investment forever and something that you should avoid buying outright. You just need to be thoughtful in your approach, like you do anywhere, but especially with condos. You need to really, really dig into that HOA during the due diligence process to make sure that HOA is solid, the building's solid, and you're not just going to be raked over the coals with special assessments as soon as you buy the place. And then you need to look at what type of properties are going to maintain their value and grow in value at a higher rate. For me, I think that's the more historic buildings, especially downtown and around downtown, because they're not building those anymore. By definition, you can't build a historic building anymore. And there are a lot of the new condos that are being built are fairly bland, let's say, not everywhere, but fairly homogenous. And you're seeing buyers gravitate to things with character. So that's another consideration I look at. But condo market, it's bizarre. It's going to be weird for a while. It's probably going to stay slow for the balance of 2025. You got to be shrewd when looking at it. And I think if you are, it is a good opportunity. All right, number 5. Last lesson. This one's really just for me. I open this by saying these are the things that I've learned that I want to share with you. And most of them are about the Denver real estate market. But for me, the lesson is don't try to do everything. And this is just something that I've learned in my business. In real estate, it's not hard to get your real estate license. By the way, you may or may not care about this. If you don't, this is the last one, so feel free to drop. But just share a little of my personal experience with you. It's very easy to get your real estate license. In Colorado, it's 168 hours of education. You have to not be a felon yet, and you have to take an exam. And if you pass that exam, you get your license. When you're doing it, it doesn't feel as easy, but as far as another professional license process, it's pretty darn quick. And 168 hours in Colorado, by the way, is on the high end. I mean, some states are at 80 hours, 100 hours, something like that, just to get your license. I remember getting a massage not too long ago, and the massage therapist telling me about her residency and all the steps she was doing to get her full licensure to do whatever sort of massage she was doing. And I remember thinking, that is so much longer, so much harder than what we need to do to be able to now officially preside over the largest financial transaction of many people's lives. Why am I droning on about that? Well, there's a lot of real estate agents and there's a lot of people who get their license and don't last very long. The fallout rate is something like 90% before your 2-year anniversary because it's a low barrier of entry. And for that reason, too, many of us don't know how to run a business when we get licensed. And many of us continue to not run businesses throughout our careers. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but if you're in real estate circles, you hear it all the time. You got to run your business like a business. And we all go, yeah, oh, totally, yeah. And then we leave and we go back to being a real estate agent, which is doing everything ourselves. And it's a jack of all trades, master of none situation. And I don't think if you're actually running a business, it's the best way to do it. It's a control thing too. I think that we need to and struggle to give up control because we feel like we need to be there all the time. And we feel like people expect us to be there all the time because a lot of real estate agents are there all the time. What I have found is people don't necessarily care if you're there all the time as long as someone who works for or with you is there all the time. And this is hypocritical advice because I struggle with giving up control, but if you can give up control by putting good people around you, you're able to ensure that for the client, there is someone there for them more often and in a better capacity than if it's just you alone. So that's something I started focusing on in 24, started focusing on in 25, really taking a look at what people care about from a client standpoint and trying to deliver on that and being the centerpiece of this team that is serving a client, but not everybody. And ironically, like I said, I think that leads to a higher level of service because as long as you're working with good people, there are more options available to serve the client. And folks can focus on what they're excellent at and not try to do everything. Wondering what I think is going to happen in 2025 in the real estate market? I did a video on that as well, and I will link to that here. If you want to, check it out. Otherwise, see you soon.